Hello, doctors and students. Welcome back to the UCM podcast. I am your host, Dr. Bill Davis today, and with me, Tony Hook, our Director of Client Success, is here. Yeah,
that's right.
Let's do it. Man, I'm excited to always have you on the podcast. Tony, you and I love talking to each other. We talk to each other every day, but we also talk to each other on the podcast, every once in a while, which is fun. And we got a great topic today that's really it's something that we see a lot of doctors kind of fall into this trap in different circumstances that all kind of go back to this. And I think it's a really important podcast to be able to share with someone who's in this position, or maybe they're considering this. And hopefully this will be something that will stop people from going in this direction in the future. And so, and we'll get into our topic in a second, but just for anybody out there that doesn't know you, I like to always make, just give you a quick introduction, who we are. If you've never listened to this podcast before, this is your first time listening to us, why do upper cervical doctors trust us with their growth? It's really because of the investment we've made in this community. Over the past 12 years, we've helped over 300 upper cervical doctors generate over 125,000 new patients. And over that time, we've been able to double, triple, or even quadruple many different practices, guide doctors through the 7 different growth stages, help them add associates, add locations, add additional team members, and really just help them improve efficiency, effectiveness through their systems, and deliver real-time insights from what's working right now as we work only with upper cervical clinics every single day. And so that's kind of what we're about and why we love helping doctors to grow their practices. And so let's get into our topic today, Tony. So what we're going to be talking about is if you've ever thought about starting your own upper cervical practice by renting a room in an existing facility, like a PT clinic or a wellness center or a gym or whatever, we're going to talk to you about why that's not a great idea. But there's also some other circumstances that are similar to this, right? So not just, hey, I'm brand new doc, I'm coming out of an associate position, or I'm coming out of school and I'm going to start a practice and I'm thinking about doing it this way by just renting a room in another facility. But there's a couple other scenarios that this type of thing can happen as well. What are those, Tony?
Yeah. So, I mean, there are a lot of offices, you're opening up a second location, maybe you're trying to keep overhead low or something. That's your mindset, or you're like, oh, here's an opportunity. And so you may consider one of those areas that you see there on the screen, the PT clinic, wellness center, gym, those kinds of things. There's one even just right down the street from me, about 10 minutes away, and they've got like a coffee shop inside there and like a health drink thing, and then it's a chiropractor and it's a massage, anyway. So it could be like you going opening up a second location, or you're kind of going, I've got basically 2 part-time locations. So you've got two half locations, we'll call it. And that may be it, and that may be you if you're listening to this, and you're traveling between, I'm here on these days and here on these days, or this time of the day I'm over here and then I go over here. And so this is for you. This is for you, or if you're considering doing that, the half locations things or a second location. Exactly.
So both of those scenarios, obviously, one is kind of the idea of the satellite office, right? Which is I always kind of thought that was a weird thing, right? Like a satellite office. It even sounds like it's not a real office, right? It's like kind of an office. It's office-ish, right? It's kind of a practice, right? It's like, we have our main practice, our important practice, our focus of all our energy and effort. And then we also have this satellite clinic over here, right? And that's kind of how it is in a lot of these circumstances where it's like, it's not as important as our main practice. And then we see doctors that struggle with the satellite clinic, and then they're like, well, why? Why is it not working? Well, because it's not a real office. It doesn't have the same amount of focus and the right type of setup that your original office had.
Right.
Right. So that's so that type of a situation as well, you've got to think about, okay, if I can't afford to build a second location that's like my first location, then what should they probably do, Tony?
Right. Well, if you can't afford it, then you should grow your first practice. So you can
That's right.
get
That's right.
build up your one location, your main, flagship location, we'll call it. Pour into that, pour that same effort and energy into that. If you're not using a marketing system, perhaps maybe have you leveraged everything that is at your disposal? Do you need to hire an associate? Can you expand your hours? Can you make the most of what you have currently? That's what I would do,
Yeah.
and maybe it's professional networking. Maybe you kind of stop doing that after, it's been a few years or something. Maybe you need to get back on that. Maybe you need to do some um, uh, the practice when you get different health provider nights, so you get a provider night where you're hosting those and building that network, or events, those kinds of things. Lots of options to build up that first location, and then when you're ready, you've raised up another chiropractor to own, and to really own it for that new location, and be your clinic director over there. Then great, now you're ready, and let's do it and do it right.
That's right. That's right. So let's get into this more and talk through, all three of these types of doctors. One is the doctor that's coming right out of school or out of an associate position and is thinking about like, hey, I'm just going to rent a room someplace in this, another facility and just, kind of, get started super low overhead, that kind of thinking. The number two is the guy who is the guy or gal who is thinking, okay, I have a great first practice. I have this opportunity that's come up, and I'm considering just having a little satellite over here. And then the third scenario is a doctor who has one practice that's basically split into two locations, right? Where you're over here for 2 days and you're over this place for 2 days. And we're going to talk about how all three of those scenarios are not wise in most circumstances, if not all circumstances. So let's talk it through. So first of all, why is this a common temptation? What are some of those reasons why doctors would approach any of these three scenarios in a kind of like, let me just get a room type of idea for my practice?
Yeah, I mean, there's the issue is almost always financial. It's like,
Mhm.
because there's a perceived risk there. So, especially if you're new and you're gonna just open up, you're a new grad or you're getting into chiropractic, there's financial pressure. There's a fear of this high overhead, and you hear people saying, "Okay, hey, you got to keep overhead low. You want your profit high," and that's true.
Yeah,
That's true. That's a
absolutely.
real healthy fear in that sense. Something to be mindful of, and so that's a temptation. You're like, oh, well, this is cheaper. I get that.
Right.
Renting a room, it does have the allure of the and being more safe, right? It's a low cost, it's flexible. Hey, there's going to be traffic that comes in. This will work out great, and on paper it looks good. So does the other situation too. It looks okay on paper, in concept. It could be, and so it's a pitched as a way to get started with low overhead. And yeah, that's a true statement. It would
Yeah.
be,
Yeah.
but there's a cost. We'll get to that in a little bit. And really, it's short-term gains often lead to long-term barriers because you're going to hit a threshold. It's not optimal and you're gonna be impeding your growth. And so you're gonna have to move, and moving is a pain in the butt. For
Yeah.
those of you who've done it, from experience, it's a hassle, man. And it's almost like a relaunch. And then anyway, oftentimes when you move too, you start to look at your branding. You're like, oh, we need to also do our rebranding now at this time too, and it becomes this whole thing. But yeah, short-term gains like that. So that's like kind of narrow-mindedness. Where you're just thinking about the first couple of years or something, or the next couple of years. It will lead to long-term barriers.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's one of these things too. It's very similar, and sometimes it's coupled with, I'm going to start my practice without a CA, right?
Yeah.
We see doctors that they'll do both of these right off the bat, right? They'll open a practice that's, in a gym, in another facility or whatever, and then also have no CA, right? So
sometimes you can have one, like the way it's set up, like, oh
yes,
yeah, there's a front desk, you can't really have your own front desk, or you can't have your own phone number, and now they're getting calls to the cell phone. It's wonky.
yeah. So those two things, although they do save money, no doubt, right? They save money, but the problem is you're setting yourself up for a lack of potential within the practice. Like the ability of the practice to actually be successful is so limited by both of these two decisions, by the decision to rent a room within another space, and also to not have a CA, that you're literally like stepping over dollars to pick up pennies, right? It's like I got, I'm gonna save on this, but you're saving, and at the same time you're losing more than you're saving.
Hey,
Because
you'll save money. You'll save money by walking to the office.
Yeah, that's true.
But that is not optimal. There's a cost.
That's right. You could save money by living in your office, right?
Yeah,
But
there you go.
it's probably not going to be great, right? So there's lots of things you could do to save money, but they're not optimal for business. They're not optimal for your patients. They're not optimal for you to be able to actually build a practice. And so that's why we're want to, talk more about this. And so let's talk about some of these limitations, right? So you're in this space, renting space. There's inherent limitations. There's things that happen as a result of being in somebody else's space, right? One is a lack of control, right? You already mentioned some of these things, right? Where it's like, well, yeah, you can't really have a CA here. You can't have your own phone number here. You can't, your hours may be limited. Your branding will definitely be limited. A lot of times you can't even have signage in some of these locations, or it's your signage is so limited by, like, people don't even know where you are, right? Like they're walking into a gym, or they're walking into a health center, and they're like, is this a chiropractor's office? Is this Dr. Smith's office?
Before you're even meeting your new patient, they're already confused. They're confused, they're unsure, and now you're going to try to talk to them. I mean, it creates a hurdle for you to have to jump over, or to get them over.
Exactly. You also may have difficulty marketing your practice, right? You have a lot of different things related to marketing, whether it's, you're not able to draw people into the practice because of the confusion that results when they call the office, or when, if it's, if you're already trying to connect with people who are unaware of your service, and you're trying to eliminate barriers, what this does is it adds all kinds of new barriers, right? So it's not just like, okay, this is somebody that doesn't know you, and they're exploring a new service that might help them with their health. But now it's like, who is this guy, right? Or who is this gal? Where are they? What are they doing? Like I call this, and it's somebody picks up the phone, and it's not even the doctor, or it's not even the doctor's office. I have to ask for the doctor. It's just confusing, this brand confusion, because you can be seen as a part of the gym or the other service rather than your own entity. So another thing is you're not really building any kind of an asset within this. You mentioned this before, if the idea is, okay, well, I'm going to save up enough money and then I'm going to move to another location. Well, now you've kind of like lost anything that you could have been building that during that time of word of mouth and connection to the community, and, placement within that area that you're in, because nobody even knows you're there. And then the other thing is just kind of referral and reputation challenges, right? Right. Where people, they don't even know, like it's difficult. It's more difficult to refer people to you, for instance, because, your patients have to be like, okay, so It's like this complicated thing to refer it to you, right? So my doctor, yeah, he's in this other facility, okay? But if you ask for Dr. Smith when you call, then they'll put you through the right what? Like it's like this. It's like why are you confusing people? Why are you making it harder for people to come see you? That's the whole point here.
Right.
And so, what are the benefits to having your own space, Tony?
Well, it's all the opposites of everything we just said.
Yeah.
You retain control over your own environment, your own brand. If you want to change this or that, you can do that. You're the entrepreneur, and there's a freedom, really, in a word. It's freedom, which is the next thing over there. But with you having full control over that, your own branding, the feel, because that's a big deal, right? Each office that I talk to, you each have a different heartbeat,
Yeah.
and with that, there's obviously similarities in the upper cervical world and even the chiropractic world as whole, but then there's also these little nuances that make your office, right? Maybe it's a little quirky, maybe it's a little fun, maybe it's a little loose, maybe it's a real tight and professional. It's got the white lab coat still, all those different things, right? So, but you can do that. You can be you. Right.
Yes.
And then freedom, the next thing over there, freedom to market without restrictions. So, hey, do you want to run ads? You want to do an event? Great, you can do it. You are free to truly be an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
That's the big thing, and own it, and get your team involved and engaged. And then the third thing there is to have scalable growth opportunities. And so you're not going to it's going to allow you to be able to excel and to keep growing. There's no caps on that. And so as you're able to, like we talked about the marketing, and also for just space too, right? Like you're going to oftentimes with the other when you've got the half locations or a second location inside those wellness areas, it's like there's capacity issues. Maybe there's no waiting room.
Yeah.
Maybe there's not it's like, oh crap, I need a third adjusting room. And now you can hit that real quick. Or if you're like, I don't have a resting room, or I don't have a consult room, or whatever that is. And so you want to have it to where it's scalable. As you're growing, you're going to have different needs. What your needs are spatially is different when you first start than 3, 5, 10 years later. So and then the last thing there, long-term equity, brand recognition. You're creating, you're establishing yourself online in such a way that when you own your own space, that it builds on each other, right? So like from an SEO perspective, from a domain authority perspective, when people look for migraine help, like you've established yourself. I know some offices, like they have established themselves as the headache experts. And that's just because of just consistency with branding, consistency with owning their own space, owning their website, all those different things. And it's just like they've become recognized by the public and easy for people to refer to. This right here, this is the location, this is the address, this is their social media. Boom, it's just clean and clear. You can grow with that. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's it. And that's there's so much when it comes to this that we see with docs, and sometimes it's the biggest thing is like, okay, what about these objections, right? Like what are you going to say to a doctor who's thinking about these things, right? Like for instance, it's like, well, but I can't afford my own space right now, right? So
Yeah.
okay, well that may be a legitimate thing, right? I mean, if
Sure.
you're coming right out of school, or if you're coming right out of an associate position or whatever, then you have to think a little bit more creatively, right? Well, obviously one thing that we have seen work, and the reason why we're addressing all this other stuff is because we've never seen it work ever.
No.
Like I've never seen this work well. I've never seen
just to be clear,
in decades,
never.
I've never seen it. Never. Not one time.
Same.
Yeah. So we've never seen a doctor rent a room in a facility and it work ever.
Yeah.
So
I've seen them fail
every time
and get frustrated.
Yeah. And so what could you do instead of that? Like if you're thinking, okay, I'm thinking of renting a room a gym or a healthcare facility of some sort, what else could you do if you're really strapped for cash? Well, one thing that I've seen that does work is if you rent with another upper cervical doctor, right? Because what's happening in that circumstance is you're coming in with a similar mindset, philosophy, and purpose, and that can be a good scenario at times, right? For both doctors, right? Where you're coming in, essentially as an independent contractor. Now, obviously, you're an independent contractor, which can be an issue for the doctor that's renting to you sometimes, but sometimes it works and sometimes it works well. And it can be something where, you build up over time and then you go get your own space, or you work out a different agreement with the doctor that you're with or whatever. So sometimes that will work. If you're thinking like, I just don't know how I can open a practice unless I rent a room, then focus on finding an upper cervical doctor in your area, maybe even going a little further away than you were planning on to get into this kind of a situation, because this is definitely better than, because I've actually seen this work.
At least it's identified as an upper cervical practice.
Yes.
Right. It has its own building. For the record, it's a given that you wouldn't join up with another upper cervical doctor who's inside a wellness center, by the way.
Yeah.
Just want to say that.
Right. Yeah. The whole idea here is that, yes, you're branding upper cervical as kind of the focus of what your guys
clear.
are doing in the practice. And the other thing that's good about this kind of a situation, as opposed to the other, is, hopefully they have a CA, they have a reception area, they have X-ray, they have all these things that you need to make it a lower overhead option for you, if that's possible. Another objection is, I'm scared of committing to a lease right now, right? Because I don't know if this is going to work, right? Well,
it's a big deal.
Mm-hmm. Part of it is having, you got to have a mentality to be able to take a risk. I mean, literally an entrepreneur, the word means to take a risk. It's a French word that means that. And so you've got to believe enough in what you're doing to be able to say, okay, I'm going to take a risk. I'm going to step out, and you're going to mitigate that risk as best you can with hopefully good advice, good people that are going to come alongside you and help you and encourage you and give you wise counsel. But at some point, you've got to take a chance, right? If you're going to start your own practice, you've got to take a chance. You've got to say, all right, I know enough. I'm prepared enough. I'm going to step into it and learn as I go, right? But the right location reduces your risks dramatically, right? So it like we said at the beginning, if you decide, okay, well, I can't afford to do whatever, so I'm going to get into this like low overhead situation, but it's also a low possibility of success situation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's it. You don't want to put yourself in both a low overhead and low possibility of success, because you're likely to not have success. You'd rather spend more money, have a little bit more risk, and give yourself a better chance of actually being successful.
Yeah.
And then the last year objection is, what if I don't get enough patients, right? Well, this is always going to be a concern, right? No matter what. If you're starting a new practice, you're starting from scratch, you don't have any patients, you got to have a plan. You got to have a plan in place to work through and develop a patient base. And your own space boosts your credibility. Someone is more likely to start care in a practice that is set up like a practice, that is set up with the credibility indicators for the doctor and for the practice and for the staff, that has a CA, that has someone that, it has some of these defining marks of what people think about when they think about a healthcare practice, right? Like if it's, they're going to see you in a closet and it was literally just you, are they going to have more confidence in that situation? Or if they walked in and met a front desk person who was well trained and talked to them and made them feel like they're in the right place, and then they went and talked to you, and then you presented them with a solution to their, to their problem, and are they more likely to start care in that circumstance? Of course they are. Right. So that's the whole thing. Is you got to think about not only I want to keep my overhead low, which is a good thought in and of itself, but also be able to spend money on the right things that are going to help you to be successful at a higher probability.
Well, the other thing too is like if these things are too much risk for you, then maybe you're not ready for owning.
Yes.
That's okay. That's okay. Yeah. You're just not there yet. And that's okay. Right. So maybe go associates, do your associate somewhere.
That's right.
Join a team, learn the ropes, save up some money, suck some stuff aside, take notes, get experience, and then take that. And all of a sudden what's going to happen is, 5 years later or whatever, you're going to go, you know what? I think I can do this.
That's cool. Right.
Now you're willing to take the risk because your mindset's changed.
That's right. So it's always better to do that. It's always better to go work for somebody else, be an associate, than start in a situation that has a extremely low probability of success.
Yeah. Which is risky in of itself, by the way.
Yes,
so if you get that, if you really unpack that, it's like it's more risky
to do this. It's more risk. Absolutely. All right. So I want to talk through 2 case studies, right? We're not using actual names here, but these are actual people. We're going to talk through two scenarios of people that we know that we've worked with over the years who have gone into these circumstances, and both were in a very similar circumstance to start, and both took a different direction, and talk through what happened with them. Tony, can you talk through both these case studies?
Yeah, so we just used like Dr. A and Dr. B just as placeholders there. But Dr. A was renting a room in kind of a health center. There's a gym right next door, a coffee bar, juice bar being built there. And, on paper, it looks great. Looks like it's going to work and everything. But then there's all these little hiccups, signage on the door is unclear. There's nobody that greets when people walk into the main entrance, and it's not sure. There's confusion where people don't know where to go, and they're walking in, and there's somebody that has a gym bag over their shoulder in workout clothes with a yoga mat. And then you're walking in going, I'm not here for a class. I'm here for my chiropractor, and they stumble around to find it. It was not clear, and it was super frustrating. And, they ended up having to close the practice in less than a year. And this was left with a really bad taste, really a lot of frustration, a lot of, agonizing, wanting to change things, kind of a back and forth with owners to try to negotiate how to get calls back to their own line. And can we do this? Can we do that? Can we have something at the door? Can we have sign at the street? Because there's a disconnect here. Just not clean. And to the point where it's just done. Didn't work.
Yeah.
Sad. It's sad because there's people in that community that needed help.
Absolutely.
He made it so it just wasn't working. So my heart goes out for that stuff big time.
And the second example,
contrasting that with Dr. B, we'll call this person. It's really same really like later in life getting into chiropractic, right? And so like same type of age, basically, same stage of life. And so instead say, hey, you know what? I'm gonna get my own space. I actually linked up with us in regards to some coaching initially, kind of like, hey, what's the best ways? What don't I know? Kind of type thing. What do I look for? And then, worked on the branding, worked on the website, social media, get everything established, just very circumspect every step of the way, but getting into his own space, and then, scaling, implementing systems, and it's growing steadily, and as we hit a new little barrier, okay, what's the missing piece? What's the cog for this? Okay, great. Boom. Now we're rolling, practice growth stage 1, then 2, and just, this was in less than a year, now. And I just actually had an appointment with him, and it's just new records, man. It's just good to see. And it's just, it's just steady growth. And there's just that sense of stability that happens. And there's a confidence, there's a mindset that's there now too. And this confidence by the way, this doc is converting 95% of his consultations into starts. There's a degree of that, like I mentioned, that mindset where it's like there's something to be said when you own it. This is my place. There's an ownership that is conveyed when the person comes in and sits down, and there's that transfer of trust and confidence that is so key, and very successful practice, and on the way into new beginnings too, in some ways, because the associate is on the radar.
Yeah. And that's it. I mean, there is so much more involved in patient psychology than just sitting down and talking with you, doc, right?
Yeah.
They have already gone through so many different steps on that are either confirmations that they're going in the right direction or concerns that are keeping them from taking that next step to get help. And so from the very first phone call, even before the first phone call, the first time they interact with you, right? If they interact with you online or whatever, the first time they interact with you, it starts there. And then it's the first phone call. What is that experience like? And then it's when they first come to your practice. What is that like? When they first walk in the door, there's another one. When they first interact with hopefully your staff, there's the next one. When they walk into the room and they sit there and they look in the room that they're going to meet you with, there's another one, right? That's all before you ever even shake their hand. And what you want is to check all those boxes.
That's right.
You don't want anything to impede them getting the help that they need, because that's the whole point. You're there to help sick and suffering people find hope and healing. And you don't want to set up your practice in such a way that it impedes their ability to get the help that they need.
Absolutely.
And so if we're saying, hey, don't do this, right? If you have an opportunity, it's, not every opportunity is actually an opportunity. Sometimes what seems to be a blessing is actually a curse. And so in these circumstances, if you're offered a room, don't take it. Instead, research early. Start really looking into commercial space, looking into different opportunities. If you're coming out of school, start thinking about it early on, looking at the community that you're going to go into. Start really thinking it through and finding a place, not just a room, but a space, your own space that you can utilize to build a practice. Build a realistic startup budget, right? If you're coming out of school, you're coming out of an associate position, you're starting a new location, get a real budget, right? Like, what is it really going to cost for your own space, for a CA, for the marketing that you need to build the practice, for the coaching that you need to grow and get the right mindset and the right habits and the right systems in place? Like, have a real budget and start to think like years ahead. So many times docs go into these kind of circumstances, they're thinking, months ahead. You got to be thinking, what is 3, 4, 5 years going to look like in this space? Can I grow in this space for the next 5 years? Or is this going to be not good for me in 3 months? Right? It's just, this is too important to not think ahead. And then find mentors who have built successful standalone practices, right? So listen to this podcast. All the time we have doctors on here who have built successful practices. Listen to this podcast on an ongoing basis. We have over 200 episodes you can go back and listen to and learn and grow and understand. And then a Start Right program is an absolute must. Our Start Right program, Tony, can you tell the listeners about that?
Well, the Start Right program actually came about because we were getting frustrated when a doctor came to us and goes, "Hey, can you do some marketing for us?" And we're like, "Yeah, let's take a look at what you look like online." And we're like, "Oh crap, like this website's not great and your social media is not set up properly." And it's like, we need to go backwards to go forwards. So bear with us. We're going to get there, but Bill and I started talking. We started talking, going, how can we help doctors start right? And then that's why it's called Start Right.
Yeah.
So it's checking all the boxes, whether it's a second location, a third location, etc., or it's a brand new office, brand new location. Starting from square one with for you as a doctor, it checks all the boxes, especially as it pertains to online. So we're talking website, whiteboard explainer video, hosting, domain. Um, uh, Business cards, social media setup, Google listing setup, email setup, all the things you need to have things done. Where it's dialed in, all the branding's consistent, everything's done right. You own it. That's a key part. That's a very key part. You own everything, so you have freedom to operate as you see fit, and it's just a win. So everything online, especially, is dialed in, and even some other tools as well to help you get started.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's the full online start right, everything you need to online, but also as much as we possibly can, everything you need for in-office branding as well. Not only the business cards, but also things like brochures and posters, and those types of things are now included as well. And then some just really useful tools that are going to help you right off the gate too, with some educational resources, different forms and different things that you need to start a practice. So that's an absolute must. It's something that we see doctors we see more and more doctors finding out about this and buying it. And it's like, and it's a no brainer for them. It's like, oh, I got to do all this stuff anyways, but we can do it all in one place.
Yeah. And the other aspect too is name selection.
Yes.
How to pick a name, what to stay away from. What about my URL? I mean, I'm working with 2 doctors right now on exactly that. Logo is another one, by the way. That's a big one. Yeah. Logo should have had that in there. But so all of those different things, and what is like I said, the name and all that. What helping you find where should I stay away from for location?
Yeah.
I've got a doc sending me, hey, here's the address that I'm considering. What are your thoughts on that? Well, it's not really close to anything. Or, hey, this was really close to a shopping center. Matter of fact, that's a grocery store right there. That's a lot of through traffic. This is great. It's good exposure. Or, those kinds of things. Or, hey, I don't see signage for this building. Where is that? And so we can be there with you so that you start right.
Yeah. And really, we're going to help you to make better locations. I mean, better decisions out the gate, because we've seen this. We've done this for 12 years. We've been doing this. I started my own practice, many years ago, 17 years ago, I started my own practice. So it's not like we're coming out of this from nowhere, right? Like we understand what works. We've helped many doctors now start practices, and we see which ones work and work well. So we can help you right off the gate with some of that mentorship that you need. And so from here, Doc, if you are in that position where you're coming out of school, you're coming out of an associate position, you're thinking about opening a second location, any of these kind of situations that we've talked about, encourage you to go over to the website. Go to ucmgrow.com. That's ucmgrow.com. Just click on Start Growing, and you can grab an appointment there. Talk with us about what's going on. What are you looking to do? What are your plans? What are your goals? And we can point you in the right direction of what's going to help you best. If it's the Start Right, great. That's a great place to start, especially in this circumstance. But if it's something else, if it's some free tools, if it's some coaching, if it's some, whatever, we'll point you in that direction as well. So go to ucmgrow.com, grab an appointment there. And as we always say around here, go team upper cervical.